Hello again. So this video is the pediatric video, as you should have seen on the YouTube title. And so this video is going to include most, or trying to cover all the pediatric cards within the on-keying deck that follow the learning objectives and key things that we covered in the introduction to pediatrics, as well as the orthopedics or MSK pediatrics lecture. So we're going to go to our browse, and we're going to start up here in first aid. Let me get rid of this here. Actually, we'll leave that. Anyways, go to first aid. Going to come down to psychiatry, psychology, and then normal infant child development. And there's some sections here that we want to look at. So none in car safety, none in constitutional delay, growth, or puberty, infant, sorry, it's lagging, infant, you want to activate these first 6 cards, and then the last one. I'm just gonna, I guess I'll say this now as before we get into it. There's lots of cards that have some overlap, as well as information that matches, that matches what is in the lecture, but it's outside of the key points that we were told to know. So I was trying to more or less triage to limit the amount of cards we have to go over and learn in your Anki rotation versus just copious amount of information and learning details that have a low likelihood of even being on the test. So I focused on major key concepts. So like one is like the separation anxiety and stranger anxiety times, which I will get into more because those time frames don't exactly match the ones that were stated in the lecture slides. But for this, the first 6 and the last one, preschool, just the second one right here. That's going over that stick figure drawing. And then in toddler, just this one. And that just matches what we covered in lecture. So that is it for this section. And then for those of you that I have been doing Anki with since kind of more or less the beginning, and I told you to stay in step 1, which is up here, step 1v11. I want you now to go to step 2, Anki version 11. And we're going to go to #OME and then down to pediatrics. And then we're going to open this big category right here. And there's some cards that we want to activate. More so just going to be in orthopedics and well child. So orthopedics, kind of a lot. This one I was trying to focus on the key takeaways that follow the learning objectives and what she said to know. And so I am going to try to go slow. I just want you to make sure that your cards are sorted based on the sort field with the arrow pointing up. That'll make it easier. And then trying to double check the numbers just so you don't activate the wrong cards. So we'll start here with your developmental dysplasia of the hip treatment, having the brace, and then one below it. And I'm just going to go nice and slow. So let you have a moment to pause it here to activate these cards. And then we're going to scroll down. I'm going to click on that one so I can watch it. So the one I clicked on was this last one you activated on this page, and I'm just going to move that to the top. And then those are your new set of cards to activate. Coming down to this one, do the same. Yeah, and that should be it. Then we're going to go to well child. And same thing. So these first 2 are activated. I'm going to give you a minute to pause. And I'm going to click this last card and scroll down. And then it's just these 3 down here below that. I just wanted to make one comment on a card here. So this card here. So her slides. So there's certain developmental delays. Let me get my iPad out just so I can confirm this. There's certain time periods for developmental delays. And let me see here. I forgot the doctor's name. Dr. Get into it. Warren. Dr. Warren was going over, she has these great summary slides with highlighted key developmental periods that we have to know. Let me find this. Oh, here we go. So on her social milestones, she has at 6 months, children can recognize strangers, and then at 9 months, they play pat a cake and have stranger anxiety. So 9 months, stranger anxiety. This one says 6 months, stranger anxiety. And I don't want to change these cards because I think the cards are like, I think it depends on the source, kind of on where you go off of. If stranger anxiety starts at 6 months or 9 months. This resource on King says that toddlers can recognize strangers at 6 months, so they can recognize them, and then I think that's at 6 to 9 months is when that anxiety starts to build. And so, but she says at 9 months there's stranger anxiety. So I'm just making a mental note to myself that at 6 months they can start to recognize strangers, and then that develops into stranger anxiety at 9 months. And so that's why when we were up in the first aid section above in here, I didn't want to activate those cards because they're a little tricky. They don't match our learning objectives, but they're not they're not wrong. If I'm wrong in saying that, please someone let me know, and then I can update this video. And then you can always go in here and physically change this. You just type right here. So, whoops, dropped something. What I might do is stranger anxiety develops, can recognize at 6 months. So you could do something like that. I think actually that's what I'm going to do and stick with that, just so I know that, based on our learning objectives, what we have to know for our test in 2 weeks, or 2 weeks or less, we have to know that stranger anxiety develops at 6 months, but we need to know that stranger anxiety is like in full force at 9 months, affecting children. But that is it for this. So there's another big stack of cards in iShelf for Peds. I would caution you in activating these. For one, it's a whole bunch, and as you can see, there's some activated, but that's because we activated them elsewhere. So no worries on trying to pause this video, but like it's a lot of pathology diagnosis stuff. So in case you browse a little more, don't worry about this section. I ran through it quick, and it seems to be all like clinical diagnosis pathology. But that is it for this video. So sorry you got out a little late, just got a little bit behind on stuff at the end of this week. So hope that's helpful. And how do I get back? There we go. Hope that's helpful, and happy studying.